Chesapeake, Virginia, 1650 AM WHKT presents Sports Scene. Sports Scene features local, regional, and nationally acclaimed guests and excellent interviews. Follow Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick and at GJBTV.com. Now here is Greg Bickaveris.
All right, thank you very much, Ken Johnson. Glad you're with us. Finally, this snow seems like it's gone bye-bye. January 11th, 2017. Still getting used to saying 2017 with JD. How are you this afternoon, JD?
Doing all right.
Very good. This is Sports Scene. We're live as always. Sports Scene interview show each Wednesday from 12 to 1. Also, sports highlights on nnpstv.com. Tell your friends about 1650. Twitter, at Greg Bick, at Sports Highlight, at GJBTV, and HROnline.com. Thank you to our military. Great guest lineup. Kevin Sheehan from ESPN 980. Sponsors on GJBTV.com. Marketplace sponsors. You'll be seeing some great ones throughout the year. Also, the guest lineup presented by Mi Casita Mexican Restaurant with 2 excellent locations in Virginia Beach serving delicious Mexican food. Phone line presented by Spaghetti Eddie's. That is Joe Daniel's favorite place. I think me and Mia might go there later tonight as well. Sponsors this month on WHKT, Spaghetti Eddie's, Newcastle, Hogar, Newport News Greek Festival, and Finks on select Wizards games that we do carry. Kudos to Clemson and James Madison. Playoffs heating up in the NFL. Of course, Wizards finally over 500. Other tidbits, Beckham is still in the news, even though they lost a few days ago. My trip to Georgetown this past Saturday, it was a trek in the weather. I'll tell you more about that in the second half hour. And, of course, Georgetown plays UConn on the 14th at noon on Fox. Got Kevin Sheehan coming up. This is Sports Scene at Greg Bick on Twitter. Go to tunein.com, type in WHKT to listen on your phone or your computer. 10,000 watts of radio power at 1650. Stay tuned.
Oh, yeah, this is the place where Washington Wizards basketball comes alive on the radio.
John Wall, edge of the circle, cuts to his right, splits the defenders, drives, 360 under the basket, makes and scores!
Follow John Wall and the Wizards all season long on their journey through the NBA.
Catch and shoot for 3, it's there! It's there!
Check it on Twitter at Dave J Sports or at GC Talks. It is the hashtag radio party right here on your home for Washington Wizards basketball.
Listen on 1650 AM, The Answer.
People in Chesapeake and Hampton Roads have come to expect the finest Italian food at Spaghetti Eddie's. In addition to great lunch and dinner served daily, this fine establishment caters to and can host your party. Call 484-7301 for their Taylor Road location and call 410-5500 for their restaurant in Greenbrier. For more, log on to SpaghettiEddiesPizzaCafe.com.
Catch up on archived editions of Sports Scene by going to GJBTV.com and clicking the YouTube image on the homepage. Now back to Sports Scene on 1650 AM and TuneIn.com.
And welcome back to Sports Scene Live on this January 11th, 2017. Great interviews, business segments, highlights, commentary, what teased me off. Thank you for making the habit to listen to Sports Scene each week, and we love our regulars and newcomers. A lot of you know I worked for Red Zebra from 2007 to 13. Went to George Mason, so I have a lot of roots in the D.C., DMV area, including family in Maryland. One of my favorite guests is Kevin Sheehan. It was difficult to get Kevin on for a long time because he was on during this hour. As you well know, he's on from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. on ESPN 980, also part of the Redskins radio network. Let's welcome Kevin Sheehan back to Virginia Beach. How are you, Kevin?
Greg, how are you? Happy New Year to you guys.
Good to you, my friend. And as we discussed off the air, I'm going to go over a little vignettes because I respect your opinion about so many different things.
You're the one.
Oh, yes, I do. I love it. I listen to ESPN 980 more than anybody does. Anyway, distractions. You heard a lot about Beckham, but the Redskins, in my opinion, had some distractions, including Norman, before he even played one game, is doing a TV deal with Fox. And then, of course, Pierre Garçon, this was not talked about that much, was on the NFL Network during the biggest week of the Skins season against the Giants. So there's always going to be distractions, not to mention Cousins' contract, as you well documented. He never got over that this year.
Yeah, I don't know how much any of that really played into it. I think there may have been some distractions defensively towards the end of the year. In particular, Will Compton was on with Cooley and I last week and talked about, just too loose of an atmosphere, some nonsense that was going on in the defensive meeting rooms we've heard about. And I wouldn't be surprised if we find out somewhere down the road that Deshaun Jackson, while not an outward distraction by any stretch of the imagination, nowhere near what people were guessing he might become when he got here. He was actually the perfect citizen. But I think that there were some issues with him as well. He probably wore thin a little bit on the coaching staff and some teammates. But overall, bottom line is they went into a game they had to win, and they played poorly. They played the worst game of the year offensively for them, defensively against a team that clearly had no intentions of being dynamic in a game that they didn't have to be dynamic in. The Giants, that is, the defense got run on and got shredded in the first half. It was a disappointing ending to a year that really, when it all comes down to it, Greg, if they had been if they had been average defensively instead of epically, almost historically bad defensively, they would have won 11 games.
Right, and we'll get to more of some of this stuff with Kevin. I want to get some vignettes as well. And you look at that, 4-4 at home, which is just average, 4-3-1 on the road. I mean, you're not going to win any games like that. They could have beaten the Panthers. They threw a bomb. They were not the same team after they beat the Packers, yet the Packers were a totally different team.
Yeah, I would say that they really look. People want to throw and dismiss the Chicago game as they were playing a third-string quarterback, and the Bears aren't very good. The Bears had nearly beaten the Packers the week before,
sure.
Had them on the ropes at Soldier Field the week before. That was an impressive performance on the road in Week 16 in a game they had to have. They didn't play well against Carolina or the Giants at home. That ultimately told the tale. I think if they had gotten in, I don't know if they would have played better in Seattle than Detroit did the other night. They would have been more capable, I think, offensively. But it was a team that really just the defense consistently sort of sucked the life out of the team. The offense wasn't very good in the red zone and missed on opportunities to score more points. But the offense did enough for this team to win 11, 12 games if you had an average defense. And you didn't. I actually think that Dallas game was the last game where they really played well. And they didn't play well defensively in that game, nor did they play defensively well in many games. But that was an offensive show that they put on, 500-plus yards, 26 points. Remember, Hopkins missed 2 field goals in that game, so it should have been more in terms of the point total. But they never seemed to get back to that level after that game.
It just seemed like a lot of distractions, though, Kevin. I mean, this will be year 5 coming to Richmond. Is it really necessary now? That's kind of worn off. I know you guys are not totally thrilled about leaving the DMV and going down to Richmond. I know it's a win-win. There's a radio station down there that the Redskins own that we were all part of for several years. But other than that, this is going to be year 5. Then you look at somebody you documented very well in the air. You used to call him Mr. ESPN, Ryan Clark. That was from a few years ago. It just seems like that Jay has to put a foot down now, starting in the spring, in order to get back to the postseason, because it just has been a lot of distractions under his tenure.
Yeah, and at the same time, they just put together back-to-back winning seasons for the first time in, 15 years, something like that.
But nobody's happy.
They were playing for the playoffs in the final weeks of the season in back-to-back seasons for the first time in a long time. I think they need to hire a really strong-willed resume guy as a defensive coordinator. He's got to be capable, but they've got to hire somebody that really has a track record. No offense to Joe Barry, who couldn't be a nicer guy, no track record of being a defensive coordinator. And while all the players liked him, they may have liked him too much. They may have liked him more than they feared him or respected him. But the talent's an issue on defense as well. Look, Gruden this coming year, Greg, he's got to make the playoffs. I mean, if he doesn't make the playoffs, then you will certainly hear discussion about whether or not he'll get that 5th year of his 5-year deal.
I saw Snyder walking down the hallway, where the TV suite is, and he was there with one of his henchmen. He just did not look happy, and he doesn't talk a whole lot anymore. But what is he thinking?
It's a great question. And by the way, you're right. I mean, compared to some of the other owners in town, Ted Leonsis in particular, Dan Snyder's a recluse. Yes. I mean, there's no desire to be heard or seen from a media perspective. Ted Leonsis can't get enough of himself in front of the camera, in front of a microphone, or on his blog. I mean, he sits on the bench at the Wizards games. Can you imagine if Snyder were on the sideline during Redskin games, how he would be vilified? It's just an ironic thing around here, because Dan has not been involved in the running of the football team for some time now. Bruce Allen really runs this organization. Scott McLuhan is involved very much as the primary voice on roster management, and Jay's got the voice on coaching this football team. What he's thinking, I don't know. I can't imagine that after all of these years, he doesn't understand with respect to the quarterback position that he hasn't had one forever, and now he's got one that produces at a very high level. This is obviously a number one, topic and discussion of the off season is what will happen with Kirk Cousins.
And I've never heard a more buttoned up kid under 30 years old after the season pretty much was done saying we'll look forward to next year, possibly, maybe. He was as vague to Larry, Michael, and Sonny as he could be, with basically no emotion. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's a guy that last year, off of a record-setting season, was signed to a franchise tag and given, according to reports, a very low-ball long-term offer. People like to describe the Kirk Cousins year in 2016 as him betting on himself. Nothing could be further from the truth. He didn't bet on himself. He had no choice. They signed him to the franchise tag. There was no long-term offer, a legitimate long-term market comp offer for him to consider. So the franchise tag was a way of saying, we're not sure about you. We don't necessarily believe in you for the long term. We need to see it again. So he went into this year knowing that there were at least one or two people in the organization with clout that didn't necessarily buy into him long term, and we're going to find out what they think here very shortly. He doesn't have to sign a long-term deal here. They still have the ability to keep him by signing him to a franchise tag. But if they sign him to one more franchise, we're already in unprecedented territory with a quarterback playing on the tag for a year and not having a long-term deal entering the year after a tag at this point. It's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. My guess is that they will reach a long-term deal with him at some point here over the next month.
And it's early. It's only January. Like you said, there were two back-to-back winning seasons, but like Coach said, it's just hard to get over that hump, and they need to get over that hump in 2017. What are your thoughts about Richmond at this point, Kevin?
I like Richmond. I mean, when you said 5 years, I can't believe it's already been 5 years.
Yeah.
Richmond is a great Redskin town. It's a great town in particular, and I actually personally have a couple of very close friends who live down there. One of whom was in my wedding party many years ago,
nice.
And I was his best man. One of my oldest, closest friends lives there, so I get a chance to spend time with him when I'm down there, which is great. I like Richmond. I don't know what the financial, sort of deal is for the Redskins if it's completely worthwhile. I think they like it. I would assume that it's gotten a little bit old for the people in Richmond, but I don't know that for sure. There were still big crowds out there last summer, but I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, but like Doc has said and everybody else has said, and even Smoot and some of the other guests, Portis, who've been on your show several times, it's still going to come down, what are we going to be feeling a year from now when we get to the playoffs? To me, that's just basically icing on the cake, Kevin.
What, playoffs?
Well, yeah, I mean, getting to the playoffs is great, but I mean, all the before and after, like the Richmond and preseason football and all the hype, it's going to come down to, like, for example, this year, what they did in the Steelers game.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a track record here recently of starting slowly. There's no doubt. I mean, look, Kirk didn't even take a snap in preseason game number 2. I don't know why he didn't take a snap in preseason 2. I still don't get how we've had multiple coaching staffs and how they handle the preseason, but that's a pet peeve. There are other teams that handle it the same way and win. Next year, look, the big takeaway for me is this. If they had been subpar defensively, they would have won that they're going to be a legitimate contender in their division to win it, and even if they don't win it, a major playoff contender next year to win double-digit games. I believe that.
Right, talking to Kevin Sheehan right here on 1650, tunein.com, type in WHKT. Greg Picaveras, glad you're with us at 12:21. And instead of having to hear always go back in memory lane that Andy Poland does so well, it's nice to talk about the present, too. And like you said, they did make the postseason last year, so we'll see what happens. Kevin, if on ESPN 980, if the Redskins are topic 1, 2, and 3, what's 4 and 5? Because the Wizards and Caps just don't get that type of, emotional love or hatred that the Redskins get. It's almost no comparison. In New York, where Francesa is, it's always some drama every day. What is it like on daily ESPN radio in D.C.?
You know what it's like. It really is for, a market that is number 6 in size, in the country. It really sometimes often feels like, sort of a college, sort of a parochial one-sport college town. The Redskins so dominate year-round the conversation. Now, with that said, this town is a basketball town at its core. D.C. has more people involved in as parents, coaches, referees, participants in the sport of basketball than anything. I mean, the D.C. area, this area is one of the best high school basketball areas in the country. And when you combine D.C. and Baltimore, it's probably the most fertile basketball recruiting area in the country. Basketball is important. The Wizards, I've always felt, are the sleeping giant. If they ever really legitimately contended in May and June, it would be the number 2 in this town. Maryland basketball, you know this, Greg, when Maryland's really good and they're a threat, you could argue that in terms of the passionate following for any team in this town, that Maryland hoops might be number 2. Now, the Caps, while it's a niche following, it is passionate. Mm-hmm. I mean, the people that are into the Capitals are into it. They sell out that building every night. The playoff atmosphere for those games at Verizon Center are off the hook good. But the Nats are there. I mean, but everybody's fighting for number 2, and it's a distant number 2.
Right, exactly, because we just had 41 bowls. Clemson got a big win over Alabama, but it still was all about the NFL, still about the dominating wins of the home teams. Very little talk about the bowls, very little talk about Alabama. We're not in Mississippi or Kentucky or Georgia. I mean, what are your thoughts with that said on Seattle and Atlanta and, of course, the playoff games this weekend?
I hope they're better than last weekend. That was a snooze fest, all 4 of those games. I like Atlanta. I think Atlanta's going to go to the Super Bowl. I think they're so explosive offensively, and I think they're the best team left in the NFC. The other NFC game, I think Dallas has a really good shot to beat Green Bay, and I know that everyone loves Aaron Rodgers right now, and it's tough to bet against him right now. But they lost Jordy Nelson. They're banged up on defense. The Giants offensively couldn't take advantage of it. The Giants really made some boneheaded special teams plays in that game, which really cost them, up 6-0. You had a terrible decision by Dwayne Harris that flipped the field, and then the kickoff return at 21-13. Instead of starting 1st and 10 from your own 40, they're 1st and 10 from their own 2. Those were sort of under the radar, huge swings in that Giant-Packer game. I actually think the Giants would have given the Cowboys a better game. I just thought their defense was exceptional. And, you obviously New England. And then the Kansas City-Pittsburgh game, to me, is the most interesting of the weekend. The Steelers don't play well away from Heinz Field. There's the drama of Ben in a boot and the whole thing. He really is a drama queen with the injuries, and he's so good, though. And they've got arguably one of the more unique NFL backs in history when you watch Le'Veon Bell run. I sort of like Kansas City with all that said. At home, that's a good, well-rounded team. Andy Reid's done a great job. Of course, when it comes to clock management stuff, he'll probably trip over himself at some point during that game. He's one of the worst at that. But I'm looking forward to that game maybe more than any other, although the Cowboy-Packer game should be fun.
Yeah, he's really rejuvenated his career. I'd like to see what type of coaches get these vacancies. We saw what happened in Jacksonville already. I want to get your thoughts on some vignettes because I respect your opinion so much. We always have the Redskins homecoming where Billy Kilmer is back and so many players. But one guy on ESPN who also was part of the Redskins in the 80s, you wouldn't know he was a Redskins because he never acknowledges anything but himself in college football on TV. That's Mark May. I want to know what your thoughts about him. And the great Chris Hamburger, who you saw as a kid who's from this area, he's rarely involved in homecomings that often himself. What are your thoughts about those two unique personalities?
Well, Chris Hamburger was one of my favorite kids.
Right.
Players growing up as a kid. I loved Chris Hamburger. And Hamburger was a real media guy, too, when he was a player in the 70s. He actually hosted the postgame show on the old Redskins network on WMAL. It was the Chris Hamburger postgame show. Boy, Mark May, it's funny. I really liked that college football show that he did with Holtz and Reese Davis. I thought it was excellent, and I thought there was a lot of chemistry there. But May's not my favorite on television. As far as an ex-Redskin goes, he really is sort of distant from all of the guys. I never hear the guys talking a lot about Mark May, to be honest with you. I don't know what their feelings are on him, but the crowd that you always see and we get to see here at the radio station, whether it's Riggo or Jake or Clinton but more from the guys from way back then, May's never really a part of that, from my understanding.
And you're good friends with Van Pelt. And I want to say this. I heard Bram talking about it this morning even as well, that he's got his own show, can do what he wants to do. But the problem is, though, he's on at such a late hour. Most of the East Coast cannot stay up during business hours or school hours and watch it effectively. I know he loves it. I know he loves the freedom. But I'll say this, though, Kevin. ESPN radio nationally is not the same with Van Pelt. His presence is being felt.
Yeah, Scott misses radio, too. I mean, Scott's been one of my best friends for 30 years, and he misses sort of that long-form, intimate environment of talk radio, which you only get in talk radio in long-form, as you know. His show, though, for those that aren't up that late, you're missing a really unique sports television show. His Sports Center, which starts at midnight, although it gets moved around a lot, is such a good show, and it's such a good platform for him and his personality and his sense of humor. He's very funny. Of all the group of friends that we all have been friends for years, he's hysterically funny. I don't know if it always comes across as to how quick-witted and how funny he is, but that show that he does is great, and I agree with you with respect to sort of the ESPN Radio National platform. It misses him a lot, and he misses it a lot. I mean, we talk about it all the time. He misses the ability to sort of get on the air for 3 hours the day after a big story and long form it. You don't get that chance in a 1 hour TV show with a ton of commercial breaks and requirements to do highlights of games.
And I want to get your opinion about this before I let you go. Of course, we all, you and I have both done radio and TV, and, so many people have for so long that are so good. And you are on the air for 20 hours a week from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. with Cooley, a former player. And, of course, you do the Redskins radio network and so forth. What are your thoughts? An iconic figure is about to call it quits, Mike Francesa. He's on the air from, a lot of folks don't know this, from 1 o'clock in the afternoon till 6:30 at night. He's polarizing. Some people like him. Some people don't like him. He doesn't care at this point of his career, 30 years. But 5.5 hours to be on the air by yourself, he did have a partner back in the day. That's going to be a very interesting thing what WFAN is going to do. And tell the audience how difficult that is. You probably sometimes don't talk to your own kids and wife 20 hours a week.
Oh, God. It's so funny because, we've had some of these conversations around here recently. It's funny. The show, it's this. Like, if you're in the right show with the right person, it flies by. Like the 4 hours that Cooley and I do together, it flies by. It never seems like it's slow to us. It might be slow to people listening, unfortunately, but it never is to us, which is usually a good sign. I did a show for 7.5 years with Tom Lavero up here, and it was a 2-hour show, and it flew by. I can tell you, because I've done 3-4-hour shows by myself many, many times. It's not easy, but you just got to find the 2 or 3 things that you're really into, passionate about, and then it moves a little bit. It's those days in June and July and May when there's not a whole lot where I think the most underrated part of the job exists, and that is creativity. You really do have to be creative and come up with ideas of things that are not just interesting to you, but will be interesting to your audience and provocative to your audience. Or it's not always easy, and some days, especially if you're doing it by yourself. And Francesa's done it by himself now for a while since Russo left him. I'm sure there are days where he just says, let's just take calls for 2 hours because I don't have anything to talk about.
Exactly, but you did a great show with Riggo too before he left, and of course Riggo had some issues with the Redskins, but I think you're just a big part of Riggo being comfortable because you and Bram were both there when he was there the first time, and you can hear that in his voice, and it's good to hear him happy again because he was disenfranchised with the Redskins for a while.
Riggo is the best. The thing about John is that, first of all, he's really smart, and he's really interesting, and he's interested in a lot of different things. And the other great thing about Riggo is he's got no ego. I mean, the greatest player arguably in franchise history, Hall of Famer, is responsible for the most iconic moment in play in franchise history, and he has zero ego. Everybody loves Riggo. Everybody's always loved him. I love that he's back on the station. It's been so much fun we do an hour with him a week on our show on Thursdays, actually, and it'll be on tomorrow from 9 to 10 a.m. And then he's been an hour and a half of the pregame show every week. It's been so great to have him back. So much fun to work with him. And I'm telling you, John's not the biggest sports fan, so he'll come in and he'll want to talk about the things that are interesting to him, and he's always entertaining in the way he does it. He's just such a good guy. And I can tell you, and you know this too, that not all of these ex-athletes are easy.
Oh, no.
And Riggo and Cooley's the same way. They're just easy to work with. Low ego, no ego, and just good guys.
But Kevin, you know good and well, you love it when an analyst is prepared. The shtick on analysts, radio and TV both, even at the network level, is they just show up. They just show up. He's prepared, but it's great to see a radio analyst like Cooley who's prepared not only on your show, but on game day. But there are a lot of network analysts who just show up.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, and you can hear it typically, unless the guy is super talented. But, I mean, we're lucky here. I mean, Doc is so much fun, such a good guy. I mean, he's been here forever at the station, and is as passionate and emotional when talking about the Redskins as anybody. Brian is no holds barred. We're lucky. I mean, we got, and Clinton's been a part of the station this year on the post game show. I actually thought Clinton did a phenomenal job. And the thing I've gotten to know, and everybody around here has gotten to know about Clinton, and I do a TV thing with him every week during the football season on NBC4 up here in D.C. He's got a great sense of humor, like a really good sense of humor, and he's a good guy and really knows football, and follows the league passionately. I've met guys and had to work with guys, in brief situations that weren't very pleasant, but most of the guys around here have been great.
And I'll say this, too. Donnie Tuck, who was the Redskins PR director 30 years ago, he's the mayor of Hampton down here now. We mentioned Hamburger. And of course, Doc Walker, when I was at George Mason, he used to own a restaurant down there. So I've known Doc since I've been a kid.
He's out of that business.
Yes, but he was a great analyst on TV as well. Kevin, all the best. Thank you for your time, your talent, and your treasure. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right, it's fun catching up. Take care.
You too, my friend. All right, Kevin Sheehan right there from ESPN 980. And JD, he really tells it like it is. And a lot's going on in D.C. now with the inauguration next week as well. So D.C. is always something going on before and after, especially this month.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Yep. And, of course, thank you for producing the Wizards game. We'll take a short break. We'll be back after these messages.
Mi Hogar is your restaurant for the finest Mexican cuisine in Hampton Roads. At Mi Hogar, everything is prepared fresh in a casual atmosphere. Enjoy traditional favorites such as quesadillas, tacos, burritos, and fajitas, as well as refreshing beverages. Mi Hogar has 2 locations, 4201 Granby Street in Norfolk and 801 North Battlefield Boulevard in Chesapeake. Call ahead at 640-7705. At Mi Hogar, there is something for everyone.
When it comes to automobile service in Hampton Roads, Fink's Car Care is the destination locals have counted on for decades. Family owned and operated, they specialize in transmission service, oil changes, state inspection, radiator service, tires, alignments, and showcase Win Automotive products. Fink's does it all. Military and senior discounts are available. Like them on Facebook and visit them at 2711 Victory Boulevard in Portsmouth. For more, log on to finkscarcare.com and call 485-5555 today.
Hi, this is Greg Picaveras inviting you to join me for Sports Scene live each Wednesday from noon to 1 right here on News Talk 1650 and tunein.com by typing WHKT in the search box. Excellent guests and interaction at Greg Bick on Twitter, all powered by HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com. Sports Scene each Wednesday from noon to 1 right here on News Talk 1650.
Oh, yeah, this is the place where Washington Wizards basketball comes alive on the radio.
John Wall, edge of the circle, cuts his right, splits the defenders, drives, 360 under the basket, makes and scores!
Follow John Wall, the Wizards, all season long on their journey through the NBA.
Catch and shoot for 3, it's there! It's there!
Check it on Twitter at Dave J Sports or at GC Talks. It is the hashtag radio party right here on your home for Washington Wizards basketball.
Listen on 1650 AM, The Answer.
Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick. Email the show, bicogb@hotmail.com. Now back to Greg Bicaveras in the HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com studios. It's now time for Greg's Highlights, presented by HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com.
And I want to thank Kevin Sheehan right there for joining us from ESPN 980, a wealth of knowledge. Don't forget, gjbtv.com. Hit the big YouTube link for archive shows. Catch up on Sports Scene. My background is on gjbtv.com, better than any profile website, of course. Shop in the marketplace sponsors of gjbtv.com. Folks, HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com. Looking for a restaurant to take your girlfriend or wife on Valentine's Day? Go to HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com. Save the date each Wednesday from 12 to 1 for Sports Scene. And, of course, all powered right here by tunein.com by typing in WHKT to listen on your phone or your computer. JD, recently during the snowstorm, I was at the Butler-Georgetown game. Butler has wins over 4 top 25 teams this season. They beat Arizona, Cincinnati, Indiana, Villanova, and they beat Georgetown 85-76 this past Saturday. But how did I get there this past Saturday, right in the middle of the snowstorm? Well, it started snowing around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in that range on Friday. I said, wow, I've got to be there by 9 o'clock in the morning. Even if I left at a normal time at 5, which is plenty of time, it would have been really bad. I left at 1 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning, and once I got to Fredericksburg, it was fine. But the before and after, the ramps, the snow, there was no snow trucks that many at that hour. Of course, they started during daylight hours. Talk about driving with a Sentra through that stuff. I felt like I was in the show of Ice Road Truckers.
Oh my gosh, you told me that story. I didn't know that you left at 1 a.m. Like, that's when it's really getting bad at that time, when it's really coming down.
Right, and I was okay once I got to Fredericksburg because they can handle it. It was like a little wet rain and snow there, but from Newport News all the way past Ashland and seeing, you had to have your emergency brake. And I wouldn't recommend that to anybody, but driving back was fine. But then once you got to 295, there was still dirt, snow, and people were looking for any type of lanes they could to grip their tires on as well. So also want to thank CP Shuckers with locations on Shore Drive and Pacific Avenue. People love their prime rib, seafood, and much more. They showcase, of course, the NFL playoffs. They showcase NBA, NHL, college basketball. Like both locations on Facebook, log on to cpshuckers.com. eat or be eaten at CP Shuckers. Great appetizers, burgers, pasta, seafood. Chef Leon, of course, at Shore Drive. Matt, Mark, and Chris at both other locations. Great place to watch the NFL playoffs is CP Shuckers. We'd like to welcome the men and women in uniform serving around the world, listening to today's broadcast of Sports Scene in 175 countries and aboard ships at sea on TuneIn.com, the best app for audio in the world. Type WHKT right now on TuneIn.com. Follow Sports Scene with Greg Bicoveris. Thank you for listening to today's version of Sports Scene, and thank you for doing what you do as well. All right, we're going to switch gears. We got the Admiral segment on, brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings, and let's welcome from the Admirals. Walt, how are you, my friend?
Greg, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. Happy New Year to you.
You too, my friend. First of all, tell us your background. We've had you on before. You handle the PR and the media relations, and, of course, give us your Twitter handle and all the good stuff.
Yeah, and we spoke a couple months ago. I joined the staff back in September. My Twitter handle is @WaltRuff. I handle communications, media, PR. You pretty much hit the nail on the head. Video content, website, all that sort of stuff, handling all communications needs for the Admirals.
Whatever phone you're on, you sound great right now, by the way, so it's really good. You got to love the tune in and the audio, so don't move wherever you're at right now. Exactly. Well, let's talk about the Admirals. Their record's not that great, but a lot of fans go to because they like the entertainment. Their record currently is 9-20-4, but talk about your coach and the team.
Yeah, Greg, since we last spoke, boy, there have been a handful of changes made. I believe we spoke back in October, and in the beginning of November, the new ownership group, which is when we last spoke, brought in a new president for the front office staff. His name is Michael Santos. He has over 20 years of NHL experience as an assistant general manager and director of hockey operations. That was the first real big move that the ownership made, and then they brought in a coaching change at the end of November. They decided to relieve Rod Aldoff at the time of his duties and brought in Robbie Ftorek, a name that likely resonates with a lot of hockey fans. He's got roughly 40 years in the industry, and it's turned out to be a terrific move thus far. The team picked up 3 huge wins this past week, undefeated in 2017. I know the record overall as a whole isn't very great, but the team has really turned a new leaf, and it's been brighter days here in Admirals country.
And, of course, Boudreau's dad used to be the coach of the Capitals.
That's correct, yeah. Now he's having quite the extensive season out with Minnesota. Looks like that team's doing pretty well, and it's ties all over the place. But, yeah, we're still very thankful to have Ben on board.
So you're on the road this week, and then, of course, you take on Atlanta coming up in a few weeks. Talk about the road trip and the upcoming home schedule.
Yeah, this is a really big road trip coming up for the team this weekend. Obviously, it's been great to start the calendar year 3-0-0 at home, but now we've got some tests ahead of us coming up Friday and Saturday night. We are in Greenville, a team who we've played close a large majority of the year, but now it's time to see if this new rejuvenated offense can continue and pick up a couple of wins heading down south. And then an even more difficult task is going to be Monday afternoon. First of all, definitely a little bit of a unique time slot for a hockey game, but due to the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, it should be a really unique environment in Atlanta with all the historical presence down there. Atlanta's a team that can score their lights out, but their defense is really their lacking issue. So that could be one shootout of a game. Lots of goals expected to be scored, but this is a huge road trip for the team before they return home for 5 home games to conclude the month of January. We've got some of our biggest promotions of the year coming up. The 20th and 21st is our Pucks and Paws, where you can bring your dog to the game, and then the following night is our Pink in the Rink, where we partner with the Susan G. Komen Tidewater affiliate. The guys are going to be wearing specialty pink jerseys. It's just a really special night. It's historically our best night of the year here at Scope, and we'd love to invite everyone down who'd like to experience it.
How does it work when people bring their pets there, their dogs?
So they just got to fill out a couple waivers, making sure all the typical vaccinations and rabies things are taken care of. But it's a really fun night because, you can bring your dog to a hockey game. You hear it at sort of baseball games, because you've got the grass environment that you see in a lot of ballparks these days. But, bringing it to a hockey game is something you don't hear a whole lot of, but we've found some success with. And, we've been able to branch that out and make it happen for a couple of years now, and it's just a really good time down here.
We're talking to Walt Ruff, the Admirals. This is Greg Bick on at Twitter. Greg Picaveras, glad you're with us every Wednesday, 12 to 1 with JD. This is Sports Scene. We're your home for the Wizards as well. And, of course, just in case you Wizards fans are wondering to know, the next Wizards game is January 29th. And look forward to that as well. JD did a great job producing that as well. Walt, you mentioned the promotions. That's so important because what fans really enjoy watching, too, they might not know the players' names as well, but they like watching the skating, and there's so much history with the Admirals in this area.
Yeah, undoubtedly. I mean, one of the things that our new ownership likes to say is that you can't guarantee a win, but you can guarantee a fun night out, and that's why we've added a couple things to our second half promotional schedule, such as jersey auctions, where you can not only get the jersey that the player's wearing during the game, but they'll autograph for you. You can have an experience with them. You get to meet the player. Coming up on Saturday, the 28th, our last home game of the month, we have a post-game skate. So that's another way where, we encourage our fans to become close with our players. We want them to know that, yes, in this league, the roster is ever-changing, but we want to provide them with opportunities to get to know our guys, and we think that the fans really enjoy stuff. Who wouldn't want to come down on the ice and skate with the team, get to know the guys who they watch all night long, and that's been a really, really fun event for us over this entire season and seasons past.
All right, go ahead and leave us with your Twitter handles one more time, the website, and, of course, the next home schedule.
Okay, so the Admirals are on all major social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, at Norfolk Admirals, pretty standard across the board, Instagram, Snapchat. And again, that's at Norfolk Admirals. Website, norfolkadmirals.com. We've got a new website coming out any day here. We're really excited about that. Home schedule, we are home Friday and Saturday, January 20th and 21st, and then the following week, Wednesday the 25th, 27th, and 28th. So the final 2 weekends of the month we are home, including a midday game in there.
Walt, we look forward to talking to you each week, my friend. You are a friend. I look forward to it, and thank you for the energy and enthusiasm you bring to Sports Scene.
Greg, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited about this opportunity. Again, can't thank you enough for all you do for us, and I truly appreciate it.
My pleasure. We'll be tweeting this a little bit later. Walt, have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Greg. You as well.
Thank you. I got to say this, JD. In all the years I've done this show on this station, I'm just talking about this station. I've been on a lot of radio and TV stations. That's the best sounding guest I've ever heard on a phone line without any interruption. It almost sounded like he was in the studio as well. It really sounded good.
It had like this echo reverb that kind of filled out his voice a little bit more, so it sounded like maybe he might have been in a hallway of some sort or in his office that's concrete surrounded. But you're right, it did sound really good.
Absolutely. It was really a lot of fun. All right, folks, we're going to have a little fun. This is JD in our time a little bit up until 1 o'clock. And, he mentioned bringing dogs into the arena, the scope there. That's all good. I love pets. We'll get to more of that and what teased me off. But let's have a little fun right now, and let's hear what maybe Archie Bunker might think about it.
Well, dinner will be a little late. I'm sorry. I was doing my sunshine lady work at the home for the aged.
I told you to stay away from that home, Edith. You're liable to bring back some old-time disease.
Oh, Archie, the only disease them poor people got is old age.
That's your biggest killer, Edith.
Reverend Felcher says that us sunshine ladies are bringing hope to the hopeless and cheer to the cheerless.
What about some beer for the beerless?
That's good. You got to love Archie Bunker. Boy, he brought a lot of humor as well, too. But, to each his own. If you want to bring pets into the scope, that's really a lot of fun. But, of course, we have a lot of fun right here in Sports Scene, mixing a little sports, entertainment, humor, business. We have an evolving hour as well. We'll take a short break. We'll come back after these messages.
Mark your calendar for June 1st through June 4th as Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church in Newport News presents the Newport News Greek Festival. Enjoy authentic Greek food, desserts, beverages, music, dancing, arts and crafts, and much more. This is the 50th anniversary of this signature event on the peninsula, and it will be special. The Newport News Greek Festival is located at 60 Travis Road, off exit 258B on Route 17 in Newport News. For more, log on to newportnewsgreekfestival.org.
People in Chesapeake and Hampton Roads have come to expect the finest Italian food at Spaghetti Eddie's. In addition to great lunch and dinner served daily,
This fine establishment caters to and can host your party. Call 484-7301 for their Taylor Road location and call 410-5500 for their restaurant in Greenbrier. For more, log on to SpaghettiEddie'sPizzaCafe.com.
Mi Hogar is your restaurant for the finest Mexican cuisine in Hampton Roads. At Mi Hogar, everything is prepared fresh in a casual atmosphere. Enjoy traditional favorites such as quesadillas, tacos, burritos, and fajitas, as well as refreshing beverages. Mi Hogar has 2 locations, 4201 Granby Street in Norfolk and 801 North Battlefield Boulevard in Chesapeake. Call ahead at 640-7705. At Mi Hogar, there is something for everyone.
Now back to Greg Bicaveras and Sports Scene in the Hampton Roads Online Mall.com studio.
And welcome back live right here on 1650 on the radio dial, tunein.com. Listen anywhere on your phone or your computer, nationally, internationally, tunein.com. Type in WHKT to listen on your phone or your computer. All brought to you by Outback Steakhouse in Virginia Beach at 1255 Fordham Drive. Give them a call at 523-4832. Newly renovated. They've got seafood, pasta, steaks, appetizers, salads, delicious desserts. Of course, great bloom petals, coconut shrimp. They've got excellent steaks, salmon. They've got it all. They got seasonal parfaits, great place for lunch, dinner, late night, 7 days a week, spacious rooms, great TVs as well, comfy atmosphere, your place, plenty of good parking right there in Virginia Beach. Go by and see Mike and the friendly staff at 523-4832. Go by and get a gift card. Great place to take your girlfriend for Valentine's Day is Outback Steakhouse in Virginia Beach at 1255 Fordham Drive. You can't go wrong. Everything on the menu is good. Even their fries, their salads, their wings. They've got excellent, excellent food at Outback Steakhouse in Virginia Beach. Tonight's a good time to go there as well. Well, of course, my friend me and I are always looking for good movies to go to, and of course Rogue One is still going on, kind of like the in-between the 3 and the 4. A lot of you have probably seen it. Darth Vader does have a presence, but here is actually where Darth Vader, and we played this a while back, got his presence from.
Remember back to your early teachings. All who gain power are afraid to lose it. Even the Jedi.
The Jedi use their power for good.
Good is a point of view, Anakin. The Sith and the Jedi are similar in almost every way, including their quest for greater power.
The Sith rely on their passion for their strength. They think inwards, only about themselves.
And the Jedi don't.
The Jedi are selfless. They only care about others.
Very good, of course. So always good to see good movies, but that is one of those movies, JD, that was an iconic scene where the powerful don't want to lose their power, but they want to give it to somebody that can take over their place. And that's what that whole Star Wars movie is about.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And it just comes to show it's politics even nowadays. You know, everybody thinks that they're fighting for the good, but yet you need power to advance your agenda at the same time, whether it be good or bad.
Yeah, like Trump's taking office soon, and they're still talking about his tax returns. He makes more money than anybody, and really, right now, they elected him, so he's it for the next 4 years. All brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings. Go by and see Paul Odette and the friendly staff at 12150 Jefferson Avenue. Great place to get out of that snow and go there and get some delicious wings, beer, and sports. Watch all the NFL playoffs this weekend. College basketball, of course, the NBA, the NHL, and of course, Joe Daniel, we'll talk about our favorite topic for you in just a second. But of course, Buffalo Wild Wings has delicious salads, delicious desserts, delicious appetizers. They're known for their wings. They've got great burgers. You can get some excellent gift cards there as well at Buffalo Wild Wings in Newport News. And of course, you can watch the UFC there. But again, their phone number is 249-3999, open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Buffalo Wild Wings, Paul Odette, 12150 Jefferson Avenue. Of course, wall-to-wall TV, wings, beer, and sports. Before we get to what teased me off, your thoughts about the UFC?
I love it. It's one of my favorite sports. I I don't buy every single one, but I try to buy a lot of them because I really do enjoy watching the UFC. I just think it's kind of like modern day gladiators.
It is, but you also see a lot more blood. Now, we always talk about concussions in football and boxing as well. What about that sport? That's a very violent sport.
No, you're right. And I don't know. I've never been into boxing. I really do like the versatility of these athletes when it comes to what they're able to do. They're not just boxers. Some of them came from boxing, kickboxing, but a lot of them came from wrestling and were national champions or in the Olympics for jiu-jitsu or something like that. So I love seeing the different fighting styles of these athletes.
How about the young lady that just went down a few weeks ago?
Yeah, Ronda Rousey against Amanda Nunes. That was a great fight to watch, and it was quite a fight because everybody was focusing on Ronda Rousey. She's back. All the focus, all the media was on her, and then Amanda Nunes just rocked her.
It was almost like Rousey versus herself. Nobody even knew who Nunes was because the media only talked about Rousey.
Yeah, I mean, she fought, Amanda Nunes fought against Miesha Tate, and that's how she won the champion or the belt. And but you're right. I mean, the attention was all about the comeback of Ronda Rousey, and it's, I don't know, like at the same time, you have to give the respect to the champion, regardless of your point of view about her or how much you really like Ronda Rousey. She was the contender. She was going against the champion, and that's how you had to really think about it.
And the shelf life, whether men or women, is not that long for that sport. All right, JD, let's get to what tees me off.
What tees you off? Presented by GJBTV.com.
All right, it's tough enough to walk into a business when it's icy and snowy, but to be greeted by a pit bull or is that type of dog, JD, when a business has a dog, a Doberman or something, that's not exactly the greeting you want to portray, whether you're a pet lover or not.
I don't like, well, I'm not an animal person. And so by having a dog in any business establishment
behind a counter
to me is extremely unprofessional.
Oh, I agree.
And just, yeah, absolutely. That is not the first thing I want to see when entering into your business.
Right. Driving on icy roads. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Yeah, it's a skill you have to learn. You know, it's difficult. It's very difficult to do.
Attitudes. Keep them to yourself, folks. We deal with enough attitudes in and out of business.
Yeah, don't offer unless it's asked.
People with agendas. Waiting on somebody to email you a script. You know about that, JD.
Yeah.
That can wait or approval. Can we get this order turned in, folks? Lack of good movies and websites that don't have them updated. Folks, if a movie is playing on Sunday, is it that difficult for the website to update it the Monday before? Really? How about bad sales reps who whine because they lost an order? Don't go pouting back to the business owner or the owner of the business. Get the next sale yourself. Exactly, as well. JD, always a pleasure right here. Of course, great job with the Wizards games. And, of course, we also want to add that announcers who sound like somebody else on the radio.
Yeah, it's just, we had this discussion about
we don't need to mention any names.
Right, but just announcers and different bits that they do. It's kind of funny just to listen to.
Right, just be yourself, folks. Just be yourself, whether you're in broadcasting or not as well. So I want to thank our wonderful guest today, and of course from ESPN 980, Kevin Sheehan, of course, and also want to welcome Walt Ruff from the Admirals, who'll join us weekly here as well. Great commentary, what tees me off, great interviews, business segments, highlights as well. Go to GJBTV.com, hit the YouTube link, all powered by Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com. Folks, tell your friends about Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com, at Greg Bick on Twitter as well. We'll be back next Wednesday from 12 to 1 for Sports Scene. This will be archived on YouTube at GJBTV.com, at Greg Bick on Twitter. For JD, I'm Greg Bick-Averis. Happy Wednesday, and we'll talk to you soon.
The best of News Talk Radio in Hampton Roads, AM 1650, WHKT Portsmouth. We are the answer.